WJXT.com. Channel 4 News starts now.
At 12 o'clock, we get our first look at the home where a tragedy took place in Julington Creek. A St. Johns County community grieving the loss of 3 of their own, a mother and her 2 children found dead in that Julington Creek home. We continue to gather new information about this tragedy, and we've just learned that Sheriff Shore, David Shore, will have a news conference on the investigation at 2 o'clock. You can follow the latest on that on News4Jax.com. Meantime, deputies were called to the home on Loveland Place off Durbin Creek Road by a concerned family member. They got there, and inside they found Donna Gail McCullough, 8-year-old Daniel Rashley, and 7-year-old William Rashley, who they called Ben, all of whom had gunshot wounds. Our continuing coverage begins with Channel 4's Jim Piggott on the investigation, and Channel 4's Stacey Spanos has more on the mother's background. Jim, you're in the neighborhood. What are you learning?
You know, we're learning that people here didn't hear anything. I want to kind of show you, since this is as close as we've been able to get up to the house here. You can see the police crime scene tape back here. This is where Donna McCullough and her 2 boys were found dead. As you had mentioned, police got the call around 4:30 when a concerned family member came up to the house and found that the 3 had gunshot wounds and were killed. Police really aren't saying much at this point. You know, we're going to hear more at 2 o'clock. They're not saying if this was a murder-suicide, though they say they aren't looking for any suspects in this area. I've been talking to neighbors all around here, asking if they've heard anything. They haven't heard anything. They said that this family is relatively new to this part of the community here, that they moved in here maybe around the holidays. Here's what one woman told me.
It's devastating for a family to go through something like this. I just can't imagine. Can't imagine what her parents are going through. And the children's father. It's too hard.
And you said she just moved in a short time ago, too.
Yeah, she just moved in around the holidays.
You know, I've been talking to others around here saying if they'd seen her out here and the boys, and they say, yes, they've seen him, they've seen the boys, and that she was in a wheelchair at the time. Now, obviously, these 2 boys attended Julington Creek Elementary School. There is a lot of upset people at that school. We were out there all morning. Grief counselors are there, along with parents who took time off from work to be there. The kids visibly shaken, but they did want to talk about it. And we spoke to the principal this morning. Here's what he told us.
Great guys, really good boys. They love school, and they love their mom. And our thoughts and prayers are with the family members that are grieving right now. School's so much about academics that it's not every day that you put math and reading on hold and school grades on hold to talk about life and death situations. Death isn't a subject that you want to discuss with 7- and 8-year-olds.
You know, and what we're told, too, is that autopsies are taking place right now, and they will determine the cause of death. Even though police told us that all 3 have been shot, they want to investigate this, cover every angle of this. That's why the crime scene tape is still up here at the house, because if they need to get back in and need to look this over, there are still many unanswered questions. We're live in Julington Creek. Jim Piggott, Channel 4, the local station.
Jim, I know that earlier this morning they had a police officer stationed right there at the entrance to Durbin Creek, and essentially anybody who didn't live in the neighborhood wasn't allowed to pass. Is that still the situation?
No, they are letting us in, and they're letting others in the area. As you can just see, some cars just drove by here. They're just keeping a watch on this house because there is evidence there, and they want to make sure it's not disturbed.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. Speaking of evidence, we have done some digging, and we've learned the last 2 years have come with a serious string of challenges for Donna Gail McCullough and her family. Stacey joins us from the newsroom with more on what's happened in recent years, including how Donna wound up in a wheelchair. Stace.
Bruce, there's no doubt this mom has faced a lot of problems. Through police records and even the news files here at Channel 4, we're able to give you a better idea of the family history.
It was June of 2010, and Donna Gail McCullough was in a terrible wreck near her Julington Creek home.
Say, John, she's got hit a power pole. There's lines down, and we need JEA coming 51.
Live power lines were across her crumpled car, and McCullough was severely injured.
We need to get JEA here out immediately because we can't get to the car until they get here.
The accident was so bad it left McCullough in a wheelchair. At the time, her boys Daniel and William were 5 and 6 years old. That bad wreck happened just 2 months before McCullough's divorce to the boys' dad, Danny Rashley, shown here, was finalized.
And we've got some information new this noon from a friend of the family. The boy's dad is in Ohio, and he was notified about the children's deaths yesterday. Authorities now have him under a suicide watch until they feel he's stable enough to deal with this and also potentially travel back to Jacksonville. Bruce?
All right, Stacey, thank you very much. I mentioned that the sheriff is going to hold a news conference today at 2 o'clock. And we will plan to carry it live here on Channel 4, also on newsforjax.com, which will also be a valuable resource for you for updates on this ongoing investigation. 12:05. Weather may be a concern later today, especially if you live north of the city. Rich, kind of unsettled and not quite sure what Mother Nature is going to hurl at us.
Well, I'll tell you what, just within the last minute here, Bruce, tornado watch in effect for all of the viewing circle here in southeast Georgia, and this is what we've been talking about all morning long. Southeast Georgia has the best potential for later this afternoon and into the early evening hours for some disruptive weather in the way of strong, possibly some isolated severe storms. Now, just given what's going on here to the north of us, the National Weather Service locally has put southeast Georgia in our viewing circle, so Ware County, Blackshear, Patterson, Charlton County, all the way back over to the I-95 corridor here under that tornado watch. Let me go back the other direction here. I'm going to set my map so I can slide this down and show you that it's a pretty vigorous frontal boundary that continues to the north of us. Along that boundary, some rotating icons, some hail icons, and even some thunderstorms now forming just to the west of I-75. Getting back into our circle, this storm information here, when it comes to, I'll just touch into Charlton County and you'll see this pop up. But what we're watching is a tornado watch in our viewing circle, and this will say Folkston, St. George area, but it is all of our southeast Georgia viewing area. A tornado watch now in effect, and it will continue through 8 o'clock tonight. We're going to have some overlap here. I'll make sure that John's got back up with Blake, and we'll be here to make sure that if anything is disruptive in your forecast, we can track it all the way down to your street, down to your neighborhood here if things get fired up. The meat and potatoes part of your forecast, 83 degrees after hitting a daytime high here of 85. It's 81 right now, by the way. Showers and storms on the way. We'll have more coming up here in your full weather forecast, Bruce, in about 10 minutes. Back
All right, thank you, Rich. Meantime, we are following breaking news from the Duval County Courthouse. The jury has just begun deliberations in the case of Jovita Ibagua. She is charged in her children's drowning deaths. Jovita took the stand yesterday, saying she left her 6- and 3-year-old home alone because she thought her husband would be home within minutes. The kids wound up drowning in a neighbor's pool. Her husband's trial wrapped up last week. The verdict was sealed. His will be announced as early as 1 o'clock today. 7 states have filed a lawsuit against the federal government over the birth control mandate. The mandate requires religious employers to offer health insurance coverage that includes contraceptives. Nebraska, Michigan, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Florida, and Texas filed the suit. They say the mandate's a violation of the First Amendment and the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Take a look at what's going on Wall Street today. There it is. The Dow over 13,000 once again. It flirted with that 13,000 mark 2 days ago. Hadn't done that since I think it was about 2008. Look at it an update as well for the NASDAQ and S&P 500. A look at what is fueling the rise and where things stand at the closing bell tonight on the news at 5. In Orlando, a crowd riots over a pair of sneakers. What some people were trying to do for a pair of Nikes that caused more than 100 police officers to be called in to calm things down. And new trouble for the former Penn State football coach. The feds may join the investigation against Jerry Sandusky. We have the latest on his child sex abuse case after the break.
Kick off the week right by waking up with us here on The Morning.